Catch your breath. You've just had a whirlwind tour of Slovenia and with Misa, and it's time to get on your virtual jet now and fly from Dublin or Shannon, and with one or two connections arrive here in Jackson Hole in the northwestern U.S. What I'd like to do is give you a characterization of Jackson Hole, both the human environment but also the natural environment, which is our key attraction here. I'd like to sort of summarize some parallels between Killarney and Jackson Hole, and talk about how we embarked on and conducted our sustainable development program in Jackson Hole. And I'd like to make some certain points with certification for the entire destination, which we just received this past March. And I think probably importantly, answer perhaps some of the questions of where we get our funding from, who are key tourism stakeholders that we have relationships with, and then what kind of challenges have we encountered and lessons have we learned from them. So Jackson, I should point out there's Jackson and Jackson Hole. In the early 1800s, the fur trapping industry came to this region, in the Yellowstone region, and was started with the French fur trapping companies, then became the English, and then the Americans. And eventually the American fur company won out, and there was an Irish immigrant by the name of Davy Jackson, who Jackson Hole is named after. And the trappers would, when they left the high altitude areas, trapping beaver and so forth, and descended into the valley, they called it descending into a hole. And so originally we were called Jackson's Hole or Jackson's Valley, and then shortened it to Jackson Hole. So the key municipality within Jackson Hole is the town of Jackson itself. And then as you can see from the photographs, summer and winter are both dominant seasons of the year here in the tourism industry. And we have two national parks, Yellowstone and Grand Teton National Parks, two national forests, and National Elk Refuge. Essentially, our destination is the region. It's 4,200 square miles that makes up Teton County, Wyoming, aka Jackson Hole. 97%, about 98% of our land has some level of environmental protection to it, with the most stringent protection being the wilderness areas and the national parks and national forests. So our human environment, we have 23,500 people in our county year-round. However, our summer population swells up to more than double, almost triple a year-round population due to our visitation. Our annual visitation in our region, essentially annually, has been around 4 million visitors. And then quickly, you can see if you scan down all the recreation and activities, pretty much anything you wanted to do in the summer months and winter months we have here. We have a number of museums, including the United States National Museum of Wildlife Art, that is an attraction in and of itself. And we have a number of restaurants, high-end restaurants, and quite a diversity of foods, ethnic foods, and other kinds of foods that sort of round out a diverse food experience, as well as a diverse cultural, arts, and recreation experience here. Then here's some images of some of our wildlife that exist actually in more abundance and diversity than it has in the last 100 years due to conservation measures here. Our wildlife is our number one attraction for people coming from other parts of the U.S. and internationally. You can see a sort of a collage of different kinds of activities, water sports, bicycle, horseback riding, etc. And then our state flag in Wyoming, where Jackson Hole is located, the emblem is the bison, sometimes referred to as the buffalo. And we have plenty of them, not just in Jackson Hole, but in Teton County, somewhere in the area of around 5,000 to 6,000 of those, including descendants of the original herd of bison in the United States. And I thought this might be interesting to provide a sort of a comparison of Killarney and the town of Jackson and Teton County. So From a document that I read about Killarney's tourism industry, one of the quotes that I'll make that has a vision characteristic to it is Killarney is a destination of the future. Tourism leadership to meet new and evolving visitor trends. I suspect that's not true just for Killarney, but for the surrounding region, including Limerick and Clare as well. Our vision, which was approved by our town and county government, is a world-leading sustainable community and destination. In Killarney town, year-round residents are approximately 13,500. In our town, it's 10,400, and then the county, more than double that. Killarney has 1.5 million visitors, whereas we have 4 million. And then economic impacts. Killarney's tourism industry contributes about 410 million euro a year, and for us, about $1.3 billion per year. And as you can see, tourism is obviously a very important part of the local economy in terms of job creation and sustainability. Killarney is the key gateway to Killarney National Park and the Wild Atlantic Way. Jackson and Jackson Hole is the key gateway to Grand Teton and Yellowstone National Parks, as well as one of the important stops in the Western United States for national park touring, which is receiving a lot of visitation even these days. Killarney peak season, roughly May through September. For us, our summer is June through September. And then we also have a winter season focused primarily on skiing with 3 ski areas from December to March as well. And interestingly, Killarney and Jackson Hole have other similarities. We both evolved from a domestic tourism destination to an internationally known destination. We've combined vibrancy of town with the spectacular outdoor setting and experiences in the national park. And then key attractions, very similar. Wildlife, definitely scenery, recreation, and culture. So Killarney and the town of Jackson, you could say, are sister cities in that way. And then our Sustainable Destination Development Program, there's sort of 5 key areas of activity that are not necessarily sequential, but have some overlap and parallels involved. And I'll go into each one of those now. So back in 2012, the Global Sustainable Tourism Council selected us as one of 6 destinations from over 30 applicants worldwide to participate in their early adopters program of sustainable destination criteria. And what the GSTC gained from that is they were able to test drive their criteria against our destination, was the other 5, and matured to where they officially released it later at the end of that year. What we gained from that exercise, that experience, was got for the first time ever from a very well qualified, objective third party, a baseline assessment of how sustainable we were against 120 different metrics. And I won't go into the details of that, but that was the genesis of us creating the Jackson Hole and Yellowstone Sustainable Destination Program. Subsequently, we have done a couple more inventories of our tourism and sustainable tourism assets in terms of organizations, facilities, plans, reports, etc. And this performance baseline that we got from the GSTC was the basis for our first and subsequent action plans. And as Misa said, one of the important steps to take as a destination, whether it's in Slovenia, in the US, and Jackson Hole, whether it's in Ireland with Killarney and Limerick and Clare, is to have an opportunity to create a vision that's the result of a significant stakeholder and community engagement process. And we have done 2 different processes, one in 2013 and 2017, where we did a number of interviews with key stakeholder surveys, general public, and then we had group meetings and workshops, and we resulted in that vision that you saw earlier for Jackson Hole to be a world-leading sustainable community and destination. We are both a community and a destination, as is Killarney. And then the town officially passed a resolution, and the county did, to adopt that resolution, that vision. One of the key steps we also started was to create the organizational basis for the program. In other words, we created a strategic council and a tactical steering committee And we did that through an MOU process where we had 57 different signers. We could have probably had over 200, but we had to stop at some point. And those signers essentially committed and endorsed the goals and objectives of our Sustainable Destination Development Program. And you see the diversity of stakeholders that were involved. Our action plan, first annual action plan was when operational and was implemented. Annual since, and it's important that we reiterated our vision, which was really important for continuing to have a touchstone from which, or reference point from which, all kinds of stakeholders could understand what we were aiming for, and then specific goals that either were in existence at the time or that we were created through these engagement processes. We set targets and we identified projects and actions to strive toward those goals and hit those targets. And then, of course, schedule and budget performance measures, which are very, very important. And then this is a very key point, is that a lot of people ask us, well, how do you define sustainability? And there's all sorts of definitions out there. I think there's 29 of us on this conference call right now. We probably have at least 50 different definitions of sustainability among us. It's key to always lead a conversation with what is the definition of sustainability or sustainable tourism, perhaps responsible travel. Then we started implementing action plans. So one of the keys that once it's a horse that once you get on, you can't get off, is education, and training. It's really important that we continue to well resource our efforts to educate our general public, provide training for our key stakeholders. And we created some tools to do that. As you can see here, we created the Jacksonville Sustainability Code of Conduct. There's also a Yellowstone Pledge. And the Code of Conduct was a result of working with over 230 students across 5 high schools, middle schools, and elementary school age kids. And so we involved the schools in creating this Code of Conduct. We created the first Jackson Hole Sustainability Report Card in 2018. And again, that was with the help of students doing surveys. And believe me, they absolutely love giving a report card on the adults rather than getting one themselves. So a lot of enthusiasm among students there. And then 3 times a year, we publish something called Green Matters in Jackson Hole, which is news, issues, challenges, events, and other useful and helpful, hopefully timely and relevant information on the activities going on in our community to help us become more sustainable and help our tourism industry evolve from a tourism-based economy to a sustainable tourism-based economy. We also did a lot of training with key stakeholders. And these logos that you see here are representing some of the key organizations, subject matter experts that were our instructors, and things like how do you create a sustainable management plan or destination management plan? How do you go about introducing practices and policies for energy efficiency and conservation, water conservation, waste management, recycling, and so forth? So our workshops were attended by anywhere from 20 to 65 different businesses in a given workshop. Technical assistance. So we have 2 programs essentially that are our avenues, providing technical assistance to businesses, and not just businesses, but also government agencies here, as well as the general public, as well as non-governmental organizations. Our first is what's called Reduce, Recycle, Reuse, or RR Business Leaders Program, which is actually not just about waste management, but a number of different other areas of sustainability. And that's sort of introductory level to businesses that within an hour, hour and a half, they meet with one of our team members and they take a survey. And during the course of that survey, they get ideas about how to become more sustainable in their operations, introduce sustainability in their staff training, and creating plans and policies. But then the higher level is the Business Emerald Sustainability tier of the RR Business Leaders Program, what we call the BEST program. That is an actual certification program we created here locally based on a survey of sustainability standards and certification programs elsewhere around the world. And we've had 8 businesses so far certified, and we have another 8 in the pipeline now. Implementation action plan. So we decided that one of our keys early on in our programs planning was that within 5 or 6 years we were going to go after certification for the entire destination. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the certification that we went after, but we also went after awards and recognition. And it wasn't just for giving all the people that are involved, whether they're paid contractors or volunteers for our program, a pat on the back for their dedication, all their good work that they've done. But also, it was an opportunity to create a splash in our community, to catch people's attention, create awareness about what the program was about, what our needs, issues, challenges, and opportunities here in Jackson Hole to become a more sustainable destination. And so, as Mark had summarized, we've received some recognition from different programs from at the global level as well. And we've used those, we've leveraged those to create greater engagement of our stakeholders and, importantly, the rest of our community. Why did we go after certification? Well, we wanted some guidelines, a structure, a process, a set of standards to strive toward from the time we went operational in 2014 to the present day. We have found, and we were suspecting this would be true, that going after certification really drives innovation, it really drives improvement in the industry through that structure, through that process, and aiming toward those set of standards. And then it also provides government entities a basis from which to create certain plans, whether it's policies for sustainability, whether it's visitor use management plans, destination management plans. So we wound up being the first EarthCheck certified destination actually in North America. The second certified destination in the U.S., Vail, received certification through their own standard called the Mountain Ideal Standard. And then we were hoping that through our experience and sharing our story, we'd be able to contribute to other destinations that are in a similar journey, such as ours, toward sustainability. And really, this is something that really was a specific way to strive toward the vision that we set for ourselves. And then a little word about greenwashing. We're concerned that if we can continue to claim that we were sustainable, but it had no third party to back us up, to be able to tell the rest of the world, not just the tourism industry, but also travelers, that what we're saying is true, then we were on a fairly thin ice. So we thought that it was really important to go after certification so that once we achieve that, then it isn't just us saying that we are performing fairly well and, of course, have a lot more to do, become more and more sustainable, but that we have a third party saying that what they're saying is true. So it's very important from a credibility standpoint, and has been for us. And then you can see if you scan down this list, these are the 12 key performance areas that we were evaluated on across 266 different metrics by EarthCheck. So you can see it's a lot of environmental, but it's also social sustainability as well as economic. So it's oftentimes perceived that when you talk about a balanced destination, it's a balance of the economy with the environment, but also really importantly about the cultural and community aspects as well. In our case, Jackson Hole, in your case, in Killarney and Limerick. So as it turns out, when we received our final report from EarthCheck, we actually met 256 out of the 266 criteria for certification, with 10 areas, 3 being major areas and 7 being minor areas that we needed to improve upon, including creating an overarching policy for sustainability here in Jackson Hole and sustainable tourism, which we've done and gotten our mayor to sign off on. Then a system for monitoring and responding to reporting on visitor and resident satisfaction. That was going to be the first step in creating an overall integrated destination management plan. And we're still in the process of dealing with the pandemic before we really launch into doing those surveys, and then using that as an important input to creating our destination management plan. That's a one-stop shopping, if you will, for finding policies and practices, targets for sustainable tourism. the key story with the program funding here is that until we built a track record, some actual quantitative results, we didn't expect to get, and we didn't get many business sponsorships and donations. But over the course of the last 5-6 years, with the track record we built, we've been able to demonstrate to businesses as well as private individuals that we are making a difference here and contributing toward our destination's sustainable tourism initiatives. And so you can see we've become less reliant on government and private grants and have been able to benefit through the track record that we built. And it's a quantitative track record to get more business sponsorships and private donations. The key entities that we work with are the Jackson Hole Travel and Tourism Board. They're the DMO, as in the marketing entity. They collect and distribute 60% of the lodging tax. So $7.7 million a year is collected by Teton County. 60% of that, or roughly 4.5%, or $4.5 million, are managed by the Jackson Hole Travel and Tourism Board, and they fund our program as well as initiatives that contribute to the marketing and then eventually more strongly into the management of Jackson Hole as a destination. And then the Jackson Hole Chamber of Commerce is the key entity that provides destination sales and visitor services. And as you can imagine, with 97% of our land being controlled by federal land management agencies, they're some of our key partners as well. And then our role is to promote, advocate, educate, train technical assistance for sustainable tourism development in our community and destination. So I thought I'd give just a really quick summary of how are we doing this year? How are we doing with the COVID-19? And you see in May and June and in July, even our numbers were really down. In May, less than half of our normal visitation. Then we started to pick up in June, become close to normal in July, and then actually now more visitors in August and September than we've had in the past. In fact, we broke visitation records in September here. But if you look at employment, you can see it's not coming from people who are flying in due to the discomfort level of people flying. It's from the huge domestic market that the United States has, and this classic American road trip that people go on to see the national parks. We've been a beneficiary and sometimes a victim of over tourism, even this year as well. And interestingly, a lot of the visitation is coming from people who are staying here for a long weekend. So our occupancy rates, especially in September, were close to 100% with our visitation. And then, so where are we going from here? So our sustainable tourism development plan initiatives include to further solidify our overarching sustainability policy at the county level and buy-in from our federal land management agencies and the other key stakeholders, and then create that destination management plan that brings together all of our distributed, fragmented tourism, sustainability policies into one document that integrates and unites all of our policies that can be a common reference and touchstone and guideline for our destination stakeholders. What lessons and opportunities have we learned? As Misa had said earlier, and I established a vision early, something that can inspire your stakeholders, that they can embrace and work toward and feel invested in striving toward. Consider one or more initiating events that create that splash for your stakeholders, your industry, to engage. And then take the time to build relationships. It really does come down to individual, one-on-one, one-on-two relationships, because without trust, without integrity, without those relationships, it's really hard to get a lot done in any part of life, not just with what we're talking about today. And I can't tell you how much coffee I've drunk over, I don't know, countless number of meeting with people, either in person or now virtually, to continue to talk about the work we're doing here and their opportunities to engage and benefit by our sustainable tourism initiatives. Please do not under-resource your communications. It's not enough to do really good work to develop your industry, our industry, from being a tourism-based economy to a sustainable tourism-based economy. You really need to resource and fund adequately, not adequately, strongly, your communications so that you continue with creating that mindset in the community and that cultural shift in your community to support your tourism and sustainable tourism initiatives. As I said, educate, and train. Diversify your funding streams. That's should be common sense to us. And maybe it wasn't at first, but now it is. Strengthen local capacity. I'm not going to say don't use consultants. Consultants have a very strong and good role in helping destinations go from where they are to where they want to be. But at some point, you need to stand alone, and we found that point as well early on, and we've only been able to build capacity and increase our community impact since. And a lot of that has been through building, sustaining our partnerships, that we have innumerable partnerships now that didn't exist before we started the program in 2014. But that's my wife and I enjoying view in Killarney National Park, not just the first visit either there, which we thoroughly have enjoyed and hopefully will continue to enjoy in the future. So very, very much thank you for the opportunity, Mark and Terry and Misha, and for everyone else, thank you for listening.